So shout out to you, Tool Druid. Thank you so much for the 666. RFK tweeted the attack was unprovoked. One of the most laughable and patently absurd statements I've ever heard. Should be disqualifying. I guess we can actually take that opportunity to throw up Mr. Kennedy's tweet here. This ignominious, unprovoked, and barbaric attack on Israel must be met with world condemnation and unequivocal support for the Jewish state's right to self-defense, aka their right to commit a fucking genocide, to complete their genocide. We must provide Israel with whatever it needs to defend itself now. As president, I'll make sure that our policy is unambiguous so that the enemies of Israel will think long and hard before attempting aggression of any kind. I strongly applaud the statements of support from the Biden White House for Israel in her hour of need. However, the scale of these attacks means that it is likely Israel will need to wage a sustained military campaign to protect its citizens. Statements of support are fine, but we must follow through with unwavering, resolute, and practical action. America must stand by our ally throughout this operation and beyond as it exercises its sovereign right to self-defense. So basically going even further than Biden and you know, almost suggesting like a war happened, like a
yeah, now he's running to the right.
Exactly. And again, just, you know, saying it's unprovoked is literally just inaccurate. Like, it's a lie. It's either just he doesn't know what's going on or he's lying about what's going on. But to say that is completely inaccurate. I am wondering, Zach, because this tweet, you know, it was met with quite a bit of ire, not just from Palestinian supporters, but also some of RFK's own fans. For example, Kim Iverson says, "There goes my Kennedy vote out the window." She's been one of RFK's biggest fangirls up until this point, and I'm not sure why this was like the last, you know, like why this was the last
that
straw.
broke the camel's back.
Right, because he's already said like a million pro-Israel comments, like viciously anti-Palestinian comments, calling them all terrorists, calling them all barbarians and shit like that. So I don't know why she wasn't expecting him to make a statement like this. This is exactly the kind of statement that I expected from RFK Jr. But she says, you know, these are the words of a warmonger, quoting the RFK quote about needing to wage a sustained military campaign. America must stand by our ally throughout this operation. So yeah, doesn't sound like a very anti-war candidate or a pro-peace candidate to me. He's not calling for diplomacy or anything like that. You know, when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, people like RFK and his ilk,
Marjorie Taylor Greene,
right? They'll always, you know, whenever people say anything other than diplomacy, it's like, why are you warmongering? Why are you saber rattling? But when it comes to this, for some reason, no, we can't talk about diplomacy. We shouldn't talk about peace. We should actually talk about more war, more aggression, more military campaigns. It's just a complete inverse of what he claims to think is the solution for another conflict, which is similar in some ways.
Yeah, guys, this is another thing where you have to realize that, like, when the United States escalates our support for Israel, it is not about protecting individuals who practice the Jewish faith, right? RFKJ was literally, I mean, you know, he's literally parroted every single anti-Semitic dog whistle that stokes the right wing. You know, the New World Order, the global cabal of elites. That he literally explicitly like came out and said that the COVID virus didn't impact Ashkenazi Jews and the Chinese. Like, it was super fucked up, guys. Okay, this is not an ally against anti-Semitism. Right? Obviously not. Nobody would argue that it is. So that he is. Why is he coming out in such firm support of Israel right here? Why? Because it's not about that. It's not about protecting the ability to practice the Jewish faith. It's about the United States maintaining control of the region, and it's about the flow of cash that our RFK wants to keep coming his way from people like from groups, people who are in the groups like AIPAC. That's just a reality. That's not an anti-Semitic dog whistle, okay? And that's why he's out here, you know, making the statements that he is. He's running to a right-wing base. He's willing to continue to escalate militarily. What people in his space don't want is they don't want us to fund a war against Russians, most likely because Russians are white people. Let's just call it what it is. Why are they all opposed to the fucking war with Russians? Well, because those people are white. Those people look like me. Those people have European ancestry like me, right? I don't have a problem with us going to war with anybody who doesn't look like me, right? Like the Palestinians who don't look like, Joe Blow from fucking Georgia, right? You know what I'm saying? Do you think that's what it is, Gavin? Because honestly, that's starting to be what I'm drawing the conclusion of. It's like, oh yeah, ISIS, those people don't look like me. Of course, Tulsi Gabbard's happy to go into like the fucking Sudan and kill a bunch of people. They don't look like us, right? But Russia's the line in the sand where there's fucking white people.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I think it's weird, right? It's weird how there's so much hypocrisy around that. Ultimately, yeah, it's tough. I honestly don't really know. I did think it was funny though, this response he got. We showed you guys the response from Kim Iverson. He also got called out by the Libertarian Party, who some people were theorizing he would run with. He's running independent, but some people were saying maybe he would run as a libertarian. They actually called him out here and said, we are the only ones who are actually anti-war in every context, not just when it's convenient. All of the disenfranchised anti-war supporters of Robert Kennedy Jr. are welcome in the Libertarian Party. So maybe they're just mad at him because he decided to go independent rather than seeking their nomination. But still, I mean, regardless of what I think of the LP National, I think they're, fucking Nazis. Honestly, at this point, the Mises Caucus takeover has not been a good thing for their party. But they are correct about this. Well, maybe not about being the only ones who are actually anti-war. I think the Green Party is anti-war. But you know what I'm saying? They are correct to call out RFK Jr. for someone who pretends to be anti-war, but then, puts out this sort of a unhinged statement instead of calling for peace like every other, pro-peace candidate has.
Yeah, 100%. He continues to give away the game, guys. He continues to make it so that he only it's just about him only sustaining himself. Every time RFKJ opens his mouth, he unabashedly defending Israel. He lets us know exactly where his campaign's funding is coming from. 100%. Susie Stone, thank you for the follow-up super chat. But also that was the exact point that I was about to make. It's that anything he'll do to stay relevant, to stay in the conversation. Oh, he was a dead end in the Democratic Party. Now he's running as an independent. Oh, people who are on the left don't want to engage with him. I'm going to go on every right-wing podcast. Like, you know what I mean? But he still needs that money to sustain it. So, he's going to walk that line there. And as we'll get into later, that's honestly going to be fine with most of his base. If you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, again, we're going to be discussing later, she's explicitly not anti-war. She's just anti-funding of the Ukraine war, which, again, goes back to my, theories about it just boiling down to her being a white supremacist.
Yeah, 100%. And shout out to you, Susie Stone. Really appreciate that generous super chat. And I totally agree with you. Also, I think that a big part of the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing is just like she kind of just thinks that because Biden is currently president, that whatever he does has to be opposed. Like, I doubt if Trump was president, she would really care very much about the funding of Ukraine. No. So I think that's kind of just like a anti-Biden.
Donald Trump did fund Ukraine. He gave him like a fucking military.
Exactly. And then his supporters are like, this never would have happened if Trump was president. There would be no war if he was. I'm like, he created the conditions, or at least helped.
It was literally one of the things I used to argue against Russiagate being real. I was like, why is he doing this if he fucking Russia controls him? Russia definitely doesn't want him to do this shit. People would be like, you're right, Zach. Why would he do that? And now those same exact people that were like, and I agreed with them that like there was no conclusive evidence that Donald Trump was a Russian puppet. Even Kyle Klinsky, not even Kyle Klinsky, but I just mean like he's a non-tanky that was, pointing it out. Like one of the things that he would point out too was like the buildup in the Black Sea and like the support for Ukraine. Post Crimean annexation and all that kind of stuff that just went out of everybody's fucking vocabulary. And they pretend it's crazy because that same group just pretends that Donald Trump did nothing for his 4 years in office. And then that the last thing that happened was in 2014 in the Maidan coup.